Hello everyone, and welcome to a Let's Play commentary of Baldur's Gate 3. I'm Tryman, and this is a co-op blind playthrough with a friend of mine, known as Lone Gamer. I'll be doing a commentary through my own gameplay with my friend, and due to the issue that we didn't really have much to talk about, or we're not much talking people with ourselves, but I hope you enjoy the series and hope the insights I provide from first-time experiences, as I can recall, and just general reflection of the game. I'll be honest, when I was first introduced to the whole Ithilers, future apologies, speech impediment does not help much, but I always thought there was just like another run-of-the-mill race, so to speak, female, male, or some sort of reproduction that's more, less worm and face invasive than this, but... Oh man, that is quite a horrifying sight, just even from a discomfort. Really discomforting feeling, I suppose, but I do like, now looking back on it, I do like the whole Ithil look. It has that whole menacing look. I'm not sure it's just like natural frame structure of the head, but character creation. I don't know. One of my favorite parts about always making a character is the character creation itself in just all the multiple ways. This was a first blind playthrough this game. I wasn't sure what I wanted to play as right away. I figured it was like either a warrior or a wizard. I think I went with wizard for this first co-op game with a friend. And I'll be honest, in the whole race selection, I'm not surprised, but I'm still disappointed because to the people who've been playing D&D for a while, there's like a great deal of races you can choose from. I was really hoping to play some of more monster runs, like Orc or Kobold, for example, but I had to settle with this. And looking back on this, the whole Tieflings, that was a bit of an interesting thing. Like, I haven't played as a Tiefling before in a tabletop D&D game, and it kind of interesting. They have like their own subtype variations, and so I didn't really go with Tiefling in the end. It was a nice thought, but it's just the other races are not bad, but I've never been a big fan of oh, that's my friend, and with a little ping down in the bottom left. If you're probably wondering why we're not talking in the video itself, and not, the recording for said video, a bit of a communication, and my friend here wasn't a big fan of I don't want to say vocalization, but she didn't really have a mic, so to speak, or at least one that she felt comfortable with. So there will be a good amount of pop-ups from Steam of us typing and sending messages to each other. And I will say this now, if you send a friend request, I am not going to accept, not unless I know who you are. And I ask you not to send any kind of requests or messages to my friend, if you don't mind. But yeah. Always a bit of a mystery when trying to play these games of what you want to play as. I will say though, at least Baldur's Gate 3 was a bit easier to play as than Divinity. I felt like I was so overwhelmed with mainly the class system. But I'm going to go off track here for a moment and just looking at, I don't know, I think one of the things I've gotten used to over the years is just whether or not playing as regardless of, I think one of the things I've gotten used to over the years is playing as both male and female characters. I remember when I was younger that it was a bit of like a social thing you didn't do, but now it just feels, I don't want to say it doesn't feel bad to do so now. But yeah, character creation took me a while, just trying to figure out what I want to play as. I think we were both having a bit of trouble when we were making this as well. I'll be honest, humans have always been one of those good races that, like, always good for new players, but always good for people who didn't know exactly what they want to play as, or didn't want to do with too many special features or something like that. But I will say this, they did have a good lot of hair selection choices, but I think one of my biggest offset with hair selections is just I'm always been a short hair kind of person, at least, you know. I never favorite characters with too long of a hair, not unless it was like female protagonists and all that. I think in the end I sort of went back to playing the whole traditional, playing something that felt comfortable, something I knew well. And I went with, as you can see here, a human in this case. And although the hairstyle itself, the top part, I wasn't a big fan of, I still went with it and with the whole beard combo. I wouldn't go for like a whole. At the time I was trying to make a more Slavic kind of feel character. A big rough, something rough, a bit, you know. I'm not sure what the word I'm gonna go for. A bit anyway, it's like a bit of a big prideful kind of guy, or at least, you know, stern, and you know, because my plan throughout this whole gameplay, and from when I first was making this character, was trying to play like more of a lawful evil, or like more like a or neutral at the most, but more self-centered kind of character. The kind of character you can expect, you know, to get really aggressive when you need to, or at least make those hard decisions, more or less. But so I was a bit disappointed. I was hoping that at least the voices would be a bit more variant into like maybe like a whole deeper voice or something along those lines. But I'm not surprised, because at the time this game was still very much early access, which is interesting altogether. Yeah, I'll be honest, I wasn't sure I wanted to go more of a shorter kind of beard or larger. And the tattoos, they weren't that bad, but I always had sort of a problem with tattoos, at least when it comes to facial tattoos. And this is sort of my thing. It's like, small markings, they work great for maybe like mercenary or assassins or spy kind of companies or like characters. But the more full-on face coverage, or the ones that go around the eyes and or get super crazy. Unless it's like, I want to say like a Mike Tyson kind of tattoo, it covers like part of the face, or at least it doesn't feel as cultist as they work. But the whole full face coverage just feel like too much of a cultist feel. Like they kind of look like if you saw the character in real life, you'll say, yeah, that guy I can't trust, or I should be careful around him. But that's always been a little small beef of mine with tattoos. Body tattoos I'm okay with, but the face ones, I feel like those are the kind of things I could use a bit more work, at least more design variation to some degree. And I feel like, and I know like video games still have the limits, but it feels like the kind of thing where it's like, I feel like the type of tattoo you get, and or at least in this case facial hair in a D&D universe, so cause some sort of reactions to other characters, like make some people uneasy or help with a bit of intimidation, or perhaps in like someone saying, oh, like that beard of yours, or it's kind of hard to say. But now classes, yeah, I went with wizard at the end. It felt wizard felt like it was the closest to my whole Slavic kind of character feel that I was going for. And I would say this, I wish I know this is still early access game, but classes, I wish, you know, they still had something more, well, at least all of them. I feel like they could have worked that out a bit better, because on all the spells, like some classes, you know, cross with each other in what they can use, depending on the whole archetype or subtype, so to speak. But I felt like some of the stuff like Bard or Paladin could have worked great, or at least, you know, wouldn't have that many difficulties getting set in. Now, I think my original choices for cantrips, I think I was trying to decide, like, I knew I wanted at least one combat cantrip and probably some utility cantrips, because from my experience, like, you don't need too many combat based spells, not unless you try, you know, not unless you go into like more kind of situations where you know the enemy is going to have specific weaknesses or resistances, but always hard to tell when you're going to get that kind of encounter. And it just seems like a safer bet to have a one and done easy spell, or at least in some cases, it's one range, one melee, a kind of spell, and then have a utility spell just at your disposal. And I think the one thing that's interesting about this system that another friend told me about is that these are using the actual stats or information that's in the whole tabletop D&D games, which looking back on it now, it makes sense because, well, you'll find out soon enough in this game, but it sort of makes it easy, and I'm sort of surprised, like, now, not all spell-based classes weren't in the game. Or at least, not in the game right away with the whole early access release. I'm trust they're going to be released over time, and hopefully they don't do the whole DLC kind of experience where you get access to a bar, but you gotta buy, like, spend $5 first. So that's gonna be frustrating. Because nothing's gonna be more frustrating than being unable to play the character who can literally kill people by mocking them. The bad part about some of these spells, at least from my experience playing D&D, the actual tabletop game, is that there's a good chance that I may not even use most of these spells. And that's sort of a bit disappointing thing because, one, well, at least in the tabletop game experience, there's always that kind of player and DM kind of back and forth trying to get an idea of how things work. But the problem with this in video games is like you never know when that spell is going to be helpful, or at least how to make it work in appropriate situations. And I think as I watch this now, yeah, the whole find familiar. I was hoping for a bit more from it, but at the same time it makes sense. It's not a bad spell, but I'll bring that up later in the video and all that. Just a heads up, if you people are trying to read the whole messages me and my friend were trying to send, just know that I can't really read them that well, just with the whole video editing software. So don't be surprised if I don't make that many comments, or if any comments about what we're typing. Now I think about it, you're probably going to see a lot of the whole Steam kind of chat typing, because if I recall correctly, this game didn't have like a whole in-game type box that we could use to communicate with each other. So we had to keep on going through Steam, or in some cases only Discord, but I think we ended up going with Steam in the end. But yeah, looking back at this now, I think yeah, I was trying to really go with the whole utility feel, and probably keep like maybe one combat spell. And part of me feels like I should have went with, if I remember correctly, I should have. And then I feel like I should have went with Featherfall for a bit, but yeah, when I was doing prepare spells, I was actually thinking that was like second level spells. I think I wasn't fully aware of how little the game was following the book at the time. I'll be honest, I found this very interesting in the whole game setup, the whole love interest, or at least in this character, what my character is attracted to. Because, and the one thing I find interesting about this is like, I'm not sure how far this goes in the game. I have not yet actually experienced how this plays in the game itself, but in some aspect, I find it interesting because one, is obviously going to be very story specific to the game itself, and the one thing I sort of like about this whole love interest kind of setup is that as a player in D&D, if I don't really have a clear goal, like let's say like getting revenge for someone that murdered my father, or reclaiming a lost inheritance, or just going on some sort of big research adventure scholar quest. Love interest is always my default, at least my go-to for character goals, at least, because I don't know. I feel like as a character, the whole go raid a dungeon, get loot, get rich is like it feels like it's like a side kind of objective or goal compared to some of the other things that can come about. But I mean, I wasn't complaining. I'm quite curious about how the whole love interest, or at least in this case the character interest, plays later in the game. Because part of me feels like, right now as I reflect back on it, that one, it's just going to be like maybe visions or dreams, like kind of things, where like the enemy or the worm that's in your head tries to manipulate you. Part of me feels like they'll mind control the love interest, and make you have a tough decision of forcing you to kill her, or make a scenario challenging, or just like use the character love interest as a way to just make twists and turns in the game, keep you guessing and whatnot. But yeah, I think I went with Drow. I'm sorry I went with Drow at the end, because I don't know, the whole short races don't really interest me, and might as well make it interesting. Might as well create a story here at least for my own game at this point. But still, kind of surprised at how many hair color options they have. Makes sense, but still, it's like I thought they would just keep the game more realistic in some sense, or at least lore friendly. I have no idea, but yeah, the whole hair color selections were a bit of a surprise, I think, at the time. Just I don't think I actually felt it right away. Still, I sort of feel like they sort of, I don't know, the whole dress thing and I feel like the whole attraction thing is very simplified. And I feel like they sort of, think about it now, gave a bit of a diversification, like maybe like backgrounds, like maybe like a noble background, like you're some sort of, you're a folk hero who managed to win the heart of a duchess or something like that, or in some case, or the other way around. I'm trying to be a noble playing with someone. Again, the whole interest is not bad, and I look forward to see how this actually turns out later in the game. But still, a little hope that it would have been more diversified or made special or different in some way. Yeah, so I find this opening cutscene to be very interesting, because I think it's sort of basic question of what exactly happened here. Like, why is there like a dead Ithalid right there? Or I understand why he's attacking the whole town, but it's a big insight, or at least curiosity. What caused this to lead to this, so to speak? But yeah, very dreadful thing, and I feel sorry for this guy right here. Like, I appreciate him doing his duty, but I feel like this could have been a two-man job. One guy goes down, take a look around. At least I don't see why he should at least been down there, but ooh. I would say that's very frightening. Even if I was like not even captured, I'd just be thinking like how horrifying and painful that is. It feels like in some cases that's a disintegration kind of spell. But the ship design is kind of interesting. It's like it's pretty much like a flying snail, when you think about it. Now, I know I'm not one big on lore most of the time, or at least really any of the time, but I'm quite curious who these dragon riders are, and essentially like how they got word this quickly how the city was under attack. But still a great dramatic theme, so to speak, and it'd just be a great sight regardless. But some part of me feels like, you know what? No, I was gonna say like this town sort of had like ballistas or something like that, but in some sense it sort of makes sense because like how often do you get attacked by something like this or even a dragon itself? Again, this is another curiosity. They just now think about it, like how are they able to track this guy? How are they able to track down this Ithalid so well? I feel like maybe the game might explain it later at some point, but just thinking about it now, it's like one, he just ports and without explanation, and they just know which part of the world he went to. Also, I get a feeling these dragon riders, now thinking about it, these are very much so the end justifies the means. And you'll see why in the moment. It's like no consideration of saving survivors. Just destroy the ship, kill the guy, and just move on. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised that whole explosion didn't kill everyone, at least did more harm. But it seems like, I don't know, more of a shrapnel effect, but who knows. I mean, when I first saw that, I thought those three towers on the left, I actually thought they were doing a whole logo thing, like saying like this is the third game or Baldur's Gate 3, just one of those little nonsense things like they did like in the newer Prey game. But no, those are towers. Didn't know. You know what? It would have been sort of interesting, just well, not interesting, just makes more sense to me. Like just to watch a character fall out of that pod in a cinematic way, just to see what kind of perspective it was. But I said when we first started this game, I don't know. I guess point wasn't expecting to start playing as a tiefling, but it's a nice little good surprise, I guess, at the time. One of the times I can read the whole typing. Yeah, I wasn't used to the whole function of the game is, and seeing as how I'm doing these video series a bit long, is gonna be a while longer just to get used. Yeah, I think one of the things I find interesting, at least that another friend pointed out, is that a lot of this stuff will involve dice rolls, no matter what. I don't want to say not all simple things, but yeah, it will come up again most likely. You know, I'm not sure why that casing sends my character flying back the way it did. It just maybe it still has some of that juice left, and that makes sense. But fire damage. Don't you? That's probably just like an early game bug. I remember that Divinity Original Sin 2, that characters by default were trying to avoid hazards if they can, but have yet to program the whole self-preservation yet. I say the one thing that I find very generous of the developers, at least which makes sense for the tutorial, are those restoration pods. They work wonders, and it's just like you'll see them like at after every combat or before every combat kind of situation in this opening tutorial section. So spoiler alert. Well, I should have done spoiler a bit sooner. But you know what? For a bunch of imps that sort of came out of nowhere, you think there'll at least be more in this giant snail ship or something like that. Or at least, you know, more guards of some kind. Yeah, I think early game I was looking for a bunch of stuff I could just put in my pocket. Mainly to, I guess, mainly just to sell later in the game, expecting I'd come across a merchant sooner rather than later. Or at least, find some sort of special item, that sort of starter item that is worthwhile. In this moment, I wasn't expecting there to be like a second floor here. I think I overlooked it when I first started, but yeah, a bit of a interesting oddity. Ithilins need to take other people to reproduce, but at the same time, they can just use the brain and just make these little creatures. Part of me wish the whole dialogue was a bit like Mass Effect kind of feel, but I was a bit okay with this. And this is, I can imagine this will be just a very frightening thing. Just to have a conversation with. You know, I feel like, yeah, I think at this point I was trying to think of what will my character do, and I was thinking like big, gritty, it kind of whole does what needs to be done. It's like at this point, might as well just kill it. It's just going to be either an obstacle later on, or just like this isn't worth saving, so to speak. But ooh, at some point, I don't know. Looking back on that scene, it's just like I'm not sure if that was like actually painful for the victim, or just painful for the brain only, because it's like you're killing the creature in the brain, and you consider that whole body a husk and a vessel. But at the same time, you just saw that cutscene, and it's just the whole reaction. It just, ugh. Sort of makes you wonder how much conscious that guy was. When I took everything into consideration, just like knowing that everything, or at least most things, required a dice roll, I was honestly thinking that I need to have a good dice roll or fall to my death, which, in some sense, feels like if that was the case, that would have been a very cheeky and frustrating thing the developers would have done. But luckily, not everything requires a dice roll, which I am very thankful for. I'm not sure if there's going to be like a dice roll later on for like jumping in general for later on in this game, but I'm just happy that they didn't make me roll dice in that scene. At least that jump. Yeah, that was a bit of a video editing, and I didn't know that I had to actually be closer to see the conversation. And I'm a bit curious, like if they do add in where you can actually play as these special, unique, story-driven characters, if you play as her, do you just like does someone else greet you instead? Maybe like some sort of random NPC who's just gonna die later on, or what? But I think it's fair that they do give you her at the beginning. Strong warrior, good fighter character, great health, good for early game stuff. In my perspective, just a whole tutorial, and to get you at least used to the basic basis, and not get confused and complex with the whole magic stuff. It's a little bit happy that stealth worked in the game that I was hoping for, but at least the shadows could help you to some degree. I'm thankful that they give us the whole enemy line of sight. Combat, at least for the first time, was a bit interesting. And I know I've seen another friend do this fight, at least the tutorial stuff. And it's quite interesting to consider how it all works. Like, allies, or at least players, take their turns at the same time if they are in the same next to each other in the initiative. It's the same sort of goes with the enemies, and it's just... Yeah, I sort of like how, like, you can still hide in the middle of combat, and it works. It doesn't feel like a struggle of some kind. Heads up, if you hear some weird noises, I can't just join me right now, so... I know, looking back on it now, I shouldn't be surprised, because I feel like I was doing a whole lot of damage, more than I should have been expecting, but sort of it makes a bit sense, considering this whole tutorial stuff. Yeah, if you're probably guessing or at least ask yourself why I'm doing commentary on my own video, you can probably get the idea, like, I don't do a lot of talking, even in this video. It's like, I'm the only one with the mic, and I think I was having technical issues through most of this gameplay. Or at least what you're seeing in this video, maybe a little bit after the whole opening tutorial. But, yeah, neither one of us are doing a lot of talking. We're doing a lot of typing, but that's not a lot of verbal stuff. And I think it's, you know, right now looking back at it, easier to do commentary than, easy to do commentary when you have nothing to say during the video. Or at least, if you have nothing to say during the video, go back to the commentary and just add in the stuff later. Add some good reaction, because right now I'm feeling it. Like, I can actually put in an input and contribute right now. I'll be honest, that Gith Yankee, I find her to be a bit of a bitch. Well, at least, you know, not much of a lovable kid. Like, good, you know, like, strong word type, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, ugh, why I gotta deal with her? I don't think I'll feel that right away. And it's like, in this situation, I think sympathize with her. It's just, I feel like, yes, he got to a point, dire situation, we gotta be careful and all that. Still, surprised there's not more demon or imps. I feel like when you're in the 9 hells, this shit would have been more swarm. Especially when you see in the opening cinematic. And like I said, there's one of those glowing paws that just heal you right off the back. Tutorial stuff, you gotta love it. It makes it easy, and it makes you, you know, not too challenged. Not unless you're playing one of those hard as hell games like Ninja Gaiden or Dark Souls, which you all, I wish you the best of luck. I think, yeah, at this moment I probably realized the whole seeing the spell slots. I wasn't expecting them to be like that informative of how much spells you have or can use. And this is going off like my experience with the previous Baldur Gates games. As this was developed by Lorien Studios, or I think it's Lorien Studios, if I'm pronouncing it right. Yeah, I was expecting like a timer at the time, but no, little spell slots, and that actually sort of, you know, sort of caught my interest. I think part of me at the time didn't really notice it, yeah, so at least in this moment of the game. But I think also I was trying to test out this spell, you know, see how it worked, but and I think, now I think about it, my friend was a bit of AFK, so I I think I was experimenting with spells to see how they all looked. Grease, I would say Grease is one of those spells that's, by the sheer name of it, you think, you probably think like, oh, I can make something catch on fire, but no, it doesn't really work for that. Well, not usually, at least how it's read in the tabletop book, the book for the tabletop game. But I think later on, and I think I'll say that for the next video. Altogether, the cutscenes are quite beautiful. Though it can be a bit jagged. It's some bit like you pay attention to my character's beard. Like right now, like it's being just stiff on its own. Again, I'm pretty sure that's the whole, early release or access of the game. Yeah, so there's a this. I saw this in my friend's playthrough, which is talk to this person, and I just had to do it myself to see what it would have been like. And I find it kind of interesting. It's the whole tricking of the mind, so to speak, and just, I guess in some sense, just making them believe that they're still all right, and whatever they're doing is just like, I guess in a sense, convince them that what they're fighting is just like something in relation to their normal lives, just to make sense of what's going on. But I think at this point, this is when I started experimenting with the whole find familiar. And I think it's because my friend at this point went AFK for a little bit. And I was thinking, like, how will find familiar work? I think as soon as I noticed how they all had different stats, that's what I was looking for. And I think I just wanted to be a cat person at the time. And sure, they don't do a lot of damage, but they do have little nice tricks, or at least one-offs that can help here and there. Assuming they don't get killed instantly. I'm seeing little brain creatures, I think. Oh. I find it curious that you don't see more of those little brain devourers or whatever they're called. You think the ship would be crawling with a bit more of them. Oh, I just noticed this right now. Like, I don't think I noticed it until watching this video that I can actually see the helm right on the inside of that pane, the window pane just passed. I didn't notice that until now. This is the point where I give Arcane Recovery a try. I don't know, that feels like a bit of a questionable design choice, at least more on the Ithalus decision. Like, you need to get to the helm, but you have something blocking you. This room. I think I tried to do the whole reading of the signals. Failed 2 out of 3 of them, and I think I only got like a release. Right? And I think at the time, I was hoping that the release, like these people, weren't hostile. Just a bunch of people that, who just need to be rescued. I think I tried... No. Yeah, I think I pressed the wrong button, that middle button first. I don't know when it did. And just it would cause a small fight scene. It wasn't bad. It was just a little surprised. Like, oh, I don't want to kill them, but I think using the cat ability to distract people, that's what I was trying to go with. Trying to see, like, do like a whole flanking maneuver, or at least give my allies an attack advantage. But I think looking back on it, I don't think it really worked like that. Or can't say how it really worked. And that was more for like a sneaking characters, like to help the rogue out. I don't quite actually remember what happened just there. I don't remember. I completely forgot if we were in combat or not. Now, I only played the game a couple of times. Did the tutorial twice, and this is obviously a moment I'm gonna fail. And I'm sure, like, I think another thing about it, at this point, you're meant to fail. And it's just, yeah, I'm kind of curious. Like, if you were able to rescue her, how much that would change the game? At least, not if not now, later. Kind of a curious pondering. And that chest right there, I wouldn't know anything about it until my second run through around with the tutorial. I believe I sort of split up with my friend here for a second. And I think I was just doing a little exploring. I think as soon as I realized that was the helm, just came back, you know, the old never split the party up kind of deal. Which I think if it did happen in this part of the game, it would have been alright regardless. Unless you're playing on some incredibly hard difficulty. And at the time, I sort of missed what my friend did here at this point. And I didn't realize he pressed the... I didn't know that console actually turned people into Itholids and all that. And I think... I don't recall actually what happened here, and at least not right away. I'm a bit disappointed about this. Like, I'm a bit disappointed because I watched the trailer when I first heard of this game and saw that guard get horrifying and transform. And I'm a bit disappointed that I never really get to see the transformation. You get to see it, but at the same time you don't actually see it like literally happening. It's kind of a bit of a disappointment. Now look about it, like the whole 6 chairs in this room. Kind of interesting when you think about it. Like, part of me feels like, is this like a council room or a research room, or... I feel like it'd be like, I'm imagining right now, thinking about it, just like, it being one of those like, medical research rooms at colleges, where there's like, a bunch of people around, on a surgeon, just doing work, or at least explaining how things work in the body, and what to look for. Yeah, I think at this time I was still questioning the whole find familiar as my friend went AFK for a second. Or at least I asked her to, but yeah, I think I wasn't. Yeah, I think I realized that this. No, I think I was okay with it. At least I didn't know what I was thinking of at the time. Early access bug glitches. You think it'd be more of those big guys, those big winged demons or devils, but no. It's kind of a curiosity why no one here, at least especially Ithilids, don't question and or at least have some sort of sense or awareness that are they really under my command or not? Because it feels like an obvious whole trust thing. Like, you know, you're not going to kill me or mind F me up, but kind of pondering thought now. Well, like they don't, you know, never mind. I gotta just remember they are fighting devils, so uh, no time to focus. They gotta focus on not getting killed. I think at this time I was just getting rid of all those tip alerts. They're annoying. Like, I, the one thing I hate about games like do tips, and it's not so much that they do them. It's just when you receive them. Like, beginning of the game makes complete sense of why you receive them. But, like, when you're past the point of situation where you say you got the awareness that you already know how it works, then it just becomes annoying. It makes sense, like, maybe people are playing a video game for the first time ever, but I don't know, maybe a passive setting saying, like, I don't want tips, I'm a veteran player, or give me very specific tips, or something. And I think there was like I don't know why or what happened, but for some reason I wasn't actually in combat, or at least it might have been a different gameplay playthrough, but I couldn't really get a whole lot of movement. And by the time I actually got in range, and I couldn't do damage. And I was like, I don't know what happened in the scene. Like, yeah, I think at this point my friend pointed out that it doesn't say I'm in the fight. But as you can see from my playthrough, I'm in the fight, but it's just like, yeah, I think it's just started to let me at this point. I think I was expecting a bit more, or I don't know. I think at the time I was thinking so on the impression of Divinity Original Sin 2 kind of mentality, but and then at the same time I sort of forgot, yeah, this is an early access game. They haven't worked all the bugs out or get all the details smoothed out. Yeah, I sort of wish the whole flanking rule was sort of a bit more involved with this game at the time being. Or that I could make some of the abilities, at least the whole can't meow and distraction, more effective. But I think that's something I had to live with. Yeah, as you probably just saw in that little chat, my friend was not seeing me do much of anything, and I just don't know what was going on with at the time. I think at the time I just chalked it up to like technical early access game issues. I know it's probably a dumb thing to do in the actual game itself, but I'm quite curious what would have actually happened if you managed to kill that devil commander. Yeah, you know what? That video's coming to an end here soon. And I want to say to those who actually watched this video, oh, I appreciate it and I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you look forward to the next video part series I post on this game. Yeah, but yeah, quite interesting how the whole, I guess, dragons get involved, and I'm a bit curious what that little brain chunk was. Seems a bit, just odd to have it slide, but no. Oh, another bug issue. If you catched it, you can see the whole outline circles of your party, allies, and enemy. Oh, you guys see them still standing in the background, unaffected by gravity. The fight's that dramatic. I'm a bit curious now. What would happen if you actually attach all those brain tentacles together? You know what? Now I'm thinking about it, looking back at this last final cutscene before the end of the video tonight, I think it's a good bit of foreshadowing looking back on it all. And if you notice the freezing, again, it was part of the whole, a bit of a video editing issue I was having at the time. But yeah, good foreshadowing of potential characters you may run across of. But yeah, some of the whole bit of cutscenes still bring a couple of questions, and I would admit the goblin armor, I liked it. And I think when I was watching my friend play it for the first time, I was actually hoping like, oh, hobgoblins a playable race, but yeah, I got my hopes up too high. But interesting, you don't see these guys a bit sooner. But as we come closer to an end, I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. And try to keep an eye out for a second video when I get around to making one, or at least get the encouragement to. But I will say this: I wonder what those two were thinking at that last moment, and just a good excuse to how to get you out of a situation. But and I always smirk at that little scene, just getting smacked by some random chunk. And I'm hoping that the game was playing this whole being saved by yourself in the last second. But either way.